Are you an owner operator and get your oil changed to places like the TEA, the Petro, or any shops that do oil changes or PM? Well, you need to watch this video. Let's say you've done your oil change and things like that, and you're happy with the results, and now they ask you, hey, you want us to grease it as well. And then you agree because greasing is good for your truck, such as that. And then they tell you we can grease it in 15 minutes. Well, that's not entirely true, because most of the time, even back in my military days, I used to grease, and I've always needed something like this, right? Any kind of pick. This is your average grease point, okay? This thing has a little ball right there, okay? This ball has a spring inside, okay, that pushes it out. So when you push the grease gun in there, or the grease nipple in there, or from the grease gun, and then you pump it, and then the pressure pushes the grease inside. So when you take that thing off, that ball springs back out because of the spring inside behind it, and it prevents the grease from leaving. So in turn, you'll have grease in this area. You'll have grease in your, where it needs to be, okay? The thing is, about 60 to 70% of the time, a lot of these grease ball, that spring in there would fail on you either by having dirt and things like that. You see how that one looks? That tells me that the grease came back out. Okay, so that tells me that that spring on that ball is probably not working so well. Okay, as a matter of fact, it was just stuck. Okay, I left that on purpose because as I was greasing, I was like, oh, you know what, this is a good video tapping for an owner operator. That's why when these people tell me that they can grease something in 15 minutes and be done with it, especially a truck, that's a suspect. Okay, because take a look. This is one of your most important places that needs to be greased, okay? This is your kingpin, okay? There's a bushing inside that, and there's a shaft in it, and that shaft and the bushing needs to have lubrication all the time, or else you're gonna have a lot of friction, and then it's gonna wear out the freaking bushing, and then next thing you know, you're needing a kingpin job, okay? So a lot of times, a lot of these dudes, man, the grease don't make it inside those things, inside those, and sometimes they don't even, they don't even make sure it's actually pumping grease in there. The kingpin not being greased is gonna cost you a lot of money in the long run. The brakes and the S-cam not being greased is gonna cost you money in the long run, a lot of money, and most importantly, the doggone drive shafts not being greased properly. I'm talking about the U-joints not being greased properly. It'll cost you a lot of money in the long run, and a lot of times these guys, like I said, I never tell them to grease my truck, because you're paying them whatever amount of money, right, for 15 minutes or whatever, and a lot of times they don't hit this grease points properly. I think one of the most important things, moving parts that are not properly greased, is the whole drive shaft itself. A lot of these guys, like I said, you never see them take their time to make sure that thing will receive some type of grease inside. They'll pump it a few times and then boom, that's it. Okay, you see, now that's pretty free. Okay, these guys don't do that. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, they don't even clean that thing up like that. So now you're shoving dirt in there, So a lot of times they're not being greased properly. So you have to watch out for that. That's why, you have to grease your own thing, man. It's this is one of the things that you have to do as an owner operator, is that you gotta make sure you do it yourself. Because these guys, it's nothing against them, really. It's all they do, I used to be a tech, and let me tell you, I didn't make much money because most of your mechanics, you know, they work off of what they call what do they call that? So basically, they have a set time for every job, and if you can't do it, if you take more time than what it actually says on paper, they're only going to pay you how much it says on paper. So if this drive shaft job calls for, let's say, 3 hours, and it took you 7 hours to do, guess what? You're only getting paid 3 hours. That's why I didn't like being a mechanic, because there's a lot of unethical things going on in the mechanic world. You know, me, it doesn't matter whose equipment it is. It could be somebody else. It could be whoever. If I'm working on something, I take pride in doing that, and I try to do it right the first time. When it comes to pumping grease in your grease points, see, it's all about feel. So you have to do it. You have to have done it a few times and get the feel of it and get experience and see how and feel that the grease is actually going in there, you know? Right now, I can feel pressure on there, so that tells me grease is going in there, okay? And I've done this same truck several times already, so I know there's grease in there. Normally, if you know for sure that it's been greased, you just gotta pump a couple of times in there, 3 or 4. That's it. It's good enough. You know, it's more than enough to pump it that much. You know, but if there's no grease in there, a lot of times what I want to do is I want to make sure there's stuff coming out of the side. Not too much though, because you could blow those seals, right? You blow those seals, it's not good, right? It's gonna be counterproductive. So I usually try to pump it a couple of times. And a lot of times, if there's grease in there, you will start hearing starts to pop. Because that means pressure is in there. You're putting pressure in there. That means that pressure is trying to go somewhere. That tells me there's probably grease in there, you know? A lot of times these U-joints, man, they sling a lot of grease everywhere. So you gotta make sure these things are full. And these could cost you a lot of money in the long run. There you go, I hear it. I don't think the microphone would pick that up, but I heard it. Okay. Right there, there's a little piece. I don't know if the camera gonna be able to pick it up. There's a little piece right there that grease is starting to come out of there. That tells me we're pretty full on that U-joint. So this U-joint is good now. There's 2 points on there. The reason why there's 2 points on there, you don't have to hit both points. You can if you wanted to, but you don't have to. See, when this whole assembly is inside there, there's a little bit of hollow point in there. The grease goes in here on this end. It goes in there. It goes in there, and then there's bearings in here. Okay, there's a bearing cap right here. Inside that cap, there's little rollers in there, and that's what needs to have grease at all times, you know. And then this thing spins a lot and at a higher speed, you know. There's seals in there, and those seals are gonna start slinging grease everywhere, and that's why you got grease everywhere. And that's why it's very crucial on every oil changes, you know, that you grease those things, these U-joints, at least the U-joints and the and the kingpins. Well, you're like, man, why you rolling around in that nasty, piss-smelling parking lot, you know? Well, it's better to do it here than a freaking gravel, right? So you can always shower. Then that's why I always have freaking overalls, you know? Just in case you're wondering, where do I get my grease from? Right there. That's the name of it. Get it from Amazon. I get like 12 tubes for like 100-something bucks. It's like barely $100, so that's a good deal. How long does it take me to grease just the truck? Usually about an hour and a half, an hour, because I take my time, okay? I take my time, and then I carefully make sure grease is going in there, okay? Man, I wish I had all the time in the world to make videos, because I would like to make content to where I am knowledgeable about, and this right here, this is something I am very knowledgeable about. Trust me on that. So, trust me, small stuff like that, little maintenance like that could save you a lot of money in the long run. So, we will see y'all in the next maintenance video.